Hey everyone, this is Dr. Aruna with Psychiatry 2.0 and Trinergy Health. My journey of transition into holistic psychiatry began probably in 2013. That's when I began to research about diet and mental health and went down this rabbit hole, which has brought to me where I am. So incredibly proud of this journey. But when I first started, and there were a lot of myths that I had to break for myself, and which I am hoping to do with whoever's following me and listening to. But one of the things that I began to learn is that, especially for psychiatry, for medicine in general, that in mainstream medicine and psychiatry, we are not talking about root causes. We are not looking for root causes, and we are not doing anything to fix them. Instead, we are only trying to suppress the symptoms with medications. And these medications come with long-term side effects and harms that are not good. So I began to think more holistically, looking for root causes. I did take up the term integrative psychiatrist because even though I began to see that I did not have to use psychiatric medications to help my patients, but at that point in time, I was still very much afraid. I was very much afraid to speak my voice, to speak my truth. And so calling myself an integrative psychiatrist actually became a way to compromise, wherein I was basically saying, hey, yes, fine, I will use your meds, but also I will also do this real medicine, which is looking at the root. But I want to say that, especially in the last 3 years, with the experience with what the world has seen with the COVID pandemic, the policies, which have been the mainstream policies, which have been very critical of, I began to really own the term holistic psychiatry. And as my experience and expertise has increased, primarily with patient experience, you can study, you can read in textbooks, you can apprentice under somebody, but it is only when you begin to apply this knowledge for yourself and for others is when the real learning happens. So I'm so incredibly grateful for the patients that put their trust in me when I was still a newbie, and worked with me. And because of that experience, now I have come up with protocols that reliably and consistently work for my patients experiencing depression, anxiety, and trauma, and even psychosis. But as coming out of this pandemic, and really, I realized that there is no need for me to be afraid anymore. And I think a big part of this letting go of this fear has to do with the deepening of my own spiritual practices and journey. I was afraid because on my last day at my job, I was actually threatened with loss of my license. This was way back in 2016. But I've truly overcome any of those fears, and I don't need to call myself an integrative psychiatrist anymore. I don't. And if I use psych meds? Yes, sometimes I do prescribe, mostly in the context of deep prescription and tapering, but occasionally when patients have severe psychosis. I'm actually working with a young woman who is in catatonia. She's very severely ill, and to break her catatonia, at least I am not aware of what I can do in the holistic world with supplements that will immediately break the catatonia. But I do know that I can give her lorazepam in a very protocolized fashion, and there is evidence that it can break the catatonia. So I am prescribing that. But I can tell you that it's probably less than 1% of patient encounters where I am called to prescribe a medication in the patient's best interests. So, and Dr. Peter Gosha, the erstwhile founder of Cochrane Foundation, he's a statistician physician. He has actually done extensive research about psychiatric medications, and he has basically said less than 2% of psychiatric medications are actually worth using. 98% of medications that we use are not only ineffective, but they are potentially very harmful and dangerous. I understand his point of view. I understand it because it has been my experience as well. I am a holistic psychiatrist. I look at the root causes, and I will help you address those root causes so that you can envision, and live a life full of joy, health, vitality, and vibrancy. This is what I hope for everyone. Take care.